Hello everybody, how are you this week? Welcome back. I'm Sean Ferrick for Trek Culture, and we are going to go through all of the ups and downs for Star Trek Prodigy Episode 3, Starstruck. Now, you know how this works. We're going to go through everything we like and give it an up, and everything we didn't like and give it a down. Just before we kick off, I just want to say, obviously, to everyone, thank you so much for liking and subscribing to the channel. You have helped us grow so much over this past year. Please take a second, if you haven't already, just hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. We still have a crazy number of people who watch and they don't subscribe. All we want to do is give you more content. Now, let's kick straight off into the episode, and this feels very much like it kind of feels like a first pilot again. They're all on the ship at this point. We get, of course, plenty of Janeway, which I will speak a lot about that, but they are so disorganized in the beginning, and by the end of it, of course, they're more of a cohesive team. So my first up of the episode actually goes to the overall tone of Starstruck. I really like how they interact with each other for the most part. I really like how they seem to stumble through everything, but it seems quite natural. It doesn't feel like it's being forced at all. One of my ups this week has to go to Hollow Janeway. So, taken up for plenty of Janeway in this episode, whereas there was kind of a sort of a aww last week when we got about 3 seconds of Janeway at the end of episode 2. She is in all of Starstruck, pretty much from beginning to end. So we get plenty of Kate Mulgrew, which is always an up for me. Funnily enough, that's going to lead me to my first down of both the episode and the series, because while we have plenty of Janeway, we have barely any of the Diviner and John Noble. And I'm sorry, I did not sign up to watching Star Trek Prodigy to be given tiny little amounts of John Noble. You give me more. Now, Janeway takes them through a sort of a crash course as to what the Federation is, because I feel that while she's obviously being programmed to help any crews that are looking after the protostar, I do feel that she knows these guys are not just not Starfleet. Now, she says, oh, you're clearly cadets. I feel that she also knows they're not cadets. Think about, and I think we're going to do this comparison a lot this season, think about the EMH from Voyager. He was completely self-aware from the off, and a bit like actually the EMH Mark II from Message in a Bottle was able to look at the EMH Mark I and go, what are you doing on my ship? The fact that Janeway is standing there, she goes, oh, you're clearly not Federate, or you're clearly not Starfleet, you're clearly cadets, no uniforms. I think later on she's going to be like, listen lads, I know full well yous are not cadets, but I also didn't want the ship to explode, so I wanted to look after you. And I actually quite enjoy. So this entire scene, which I will spend a little bit more time on when we come to our Cetacean Observations, is a lovely sort of welcome to the ship, welcome to your new adventure, I know full well who you are, here's a crash course. Now, on the other side of that, I do have a fairly major down this week. So, while we're trying to get to know all of these characters and we're trying to enjoy them as much as possible, I have to say, Dal really began to grate on me by the end of the episode. Now, I understand that he's, trying to be in charge. This is his first time really out and free, and, he has a ship at his disposal and he has a crew. But he kind of started to become a little bit insufferable as the episode went on. There was a lot of arrogance coming across from him, and it really made it quite difficult to root for him. He's supposed to be this heroic leader type, but I'm not getting those kind of vibes off him. I'm getting, quite frankly, you're gonna get us all killed vibes off him. It takes him a long time to ask for help. That in itself is not my issue with the character. It's that, red alert goes off. They're outside a binary star system and he walks into the bridge like, I'm sure it's just a training exercise, it's fine. He taunts Gwyn while she's in the brig, which is not the worst crime in the world. There's just this prevailing feeling of, Dal, you have other things to be concerned about. Stop trying to walk around and think you're the best of everything. You know, God, sure, he couldn't even consider sleeping in communal quarters with Zero and Murph. Okay, if you're gonna say no to sharing a bunk with Murph, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. You're just wrong, Dal. Now look, the captain's quarters look nice, but he's going to be in a pain in the hoop. By the time he does finally ask for help, the ship has been put in extreme danger, and it's his fault. Clearly, we're going to see Dal evolve over season 1, and I'm here for that. But I do hope that this is the worst consistently we see him at, because I honestly now, I wouldn't be looking forward to a lot of episodes where we just get 20 minutes of Dal being idiot, help me. Rock Talk gets a good bit to do this week, and Rock Talk actually gets an up from me. And the way Riley Elizaraki plays her, you really get the sense of her youth, obviously, her inexperience. She goes to the replicator, and what does she order? But effectively the gruel they were serving her in the prison, because that's all she knows. There is this sincerity to the character it's really easy to root for her. When she's having that fight with Gwyn in the end in the shuttle bay, I felt really bad for Rock Talk, because why did she get sent down there? Because she's big. You know, not because she's particularly qualified to go after the prisoner. She's big. Jankum Pog at least has the good sense to go like, listen, you know, it is what it is. We're not just trying to screw you over here. You know, when gravity gets shut down and she's ascending to the ceiling, you really get this sense of fear coming off her. So that is an absolute credit to Riley Elizaraki playing her, and also the animating team, because I really felt for Rock Talk this week. Now, our next up goes to Angus Imrie and, of course, Zero. We have our Spock, our Data of Star Trek Prodigy, and it's their earnest honesty, but the fact that they also have a sense of humor. And it's really enjoyable to see. It's not just, say, for example, some very early Data stuff is a little bit jarring now, mostly because Brent Spiner got so good as Data as it went along, but it's so on the nose. Think back to Encounter at Farpoint. Humor, ha, you know, things like that. They haven't aged very well. We don't have that with Zero, or it seems to be handled much better with Zero in this episode. I love the jokes where they're like, I'm going to read your mind. Oh, okay, no, I'm not going to read your mind anymore, reading it loud and clear. That got a proper laugh out of me. And also, when Dal is in the captain's quarters and trying to pretend, oh, this bed is so lumpy, oh, who needs all of this space? And Zero just goes, you know, I can still read your mind. It's just that delivery really worked for me this week. So yeah, Zero, really enjoyed Zero as a character this week. We got plenty more of them. This may seem a little nitpicky, right? When the protostar gets caught in the gravity of the binary system and Dal orders all power be transferred to impulse engines, there is a big kind of a stop and grab you by the ears moment of, now do you mean all power? You know, is that advisable? And Dal says, leave me alone, Jamie, leave me alone. Yeah, all power. And so all power is transferred. They lose shields, they lose the power in the brig, they don't lose gravity, they don't lose life support, and they don't lose the ability for the shuttle bay to replicate a new ship. That's an inconsistency that stuck out for me as a down this week, because just that it was such a point made of, now do you want to transfer all power? Then we get that scene later on where gravity is shut off, and it's obviously clearly still functioning. And of course, the replicator. So what does all power mean? Now, I did have a think about potentially there's safety structures, like all power, well, come on, you have to really specifically state life support, for example. Okay. Why would the brig not also have that kind of safeguard? You know what I mean? So that's why it kind of stuck out for me. It's just a little bit of a, it was enough for me to kind of to come out of the episode a little bit, and I have to down it for that. The protostar has 3 escape pods. 3. Down. Back on the mining colony, we have a bit more of the diviner. Not enough, but we have a bit more of the diviner. And then there's the reveal that this tower, this building that the diviner's been inhabiting, is in fact a ship. I'm pretty sure he called it the Rev 12. That is an absolute up from me. It looks properly frightening. I mean, like, a bit like, think back to the design of the Delta Flyer, and Tuvok kind of gets that jab in against Tom Powers and said, "We are not designing a hot rod, Lieutenant." Well, I mean, okay, the Diviner ship is not exactly a hot rod, but it's also like a, do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me a little bit of Nero's mining ship. Not like they look exactly the same, but that, okay, this thing can really mess people up. So the Narada was fresh in my mind as I was looking at this, and I was like, yeah, okay, I do not want that ship chasing me. That is a definite up in terms of design, and it looks like a genuine threat to the Protostar. Now, while the activation of this tool got it down from me, I have to say the ship replicator is an up from me, because it feels like two things. One, it feels like an incredibly handy tool to have on a ship, so yes, but also it feels like a sort of a knowing wink to all of us who watched Star Trek Voyager and were there kind of going, hang on, how many shuttles does this bloody ship have? Where are you keeping these shuttles? So the idea that there's a replicator on board that can make a shuttle at will, that not only got a bit of a aha out of me, but also a, yeah, that is a bloody important thing to have on board a ship. I don't know when this tech was, added as standard to vessels, but certainly I think some of the feedback that the crew of Voyager should have given Starfleet when they got home was, do you know what would have been really handy? A ship replicator. So yeah, that was a definite up from me this week. Coming up toward the end of the episode, we have Janeway basically gives them enough information to be like, trying to get out of this binary system isn't really working for you. So then she just leaves it just enough for Zero to go, well, why don't we try and bounce off the shockwave of the star that's dying? And it works. And it's a clever moment from Janeway. Really like it. Now, one thing I do have to say is that Dal, oh, you read my mind. I feel like I'm being harsh. I'm giving that a down. It was just one line too many. I was already annoyed with the whole captaincy thing. That one bugged me. So yes, I've been very harsh on poor Dal this week. Hopefully as the rest of the season goes on, we'll be a bit happier with how they present him. Now, just before we go to Cetacean Observations, we have a little announcement to make.
Oh yeah, this is happening.
Is everybody else as excited as I am? I'm excited. I'm so excited. The pad has returned. So, going through it, as part of Janeway's briefing, we have an image of Spock. We also have an Andorian, or it could be an Enar as well. We have an OG Tellarite. We also then have the logos of the various founding races of the Federation. We have the Andorian logo, we have the Tellarite logo, we have, of course, the UFP logo itself, and we have the Vulcan IDIC logo too. Then we go and we get, which is great for a collector like me, we get shots of various ships. We've the NX-01, we've got Voyager, we've got the Defiant, we've got an Ambassador class ship, and we've got the OG-1701, the Matt Jeffries design. Now, what we also have is the Discovery. Visually, it's really cool to see the Discovery alongside these other hero ships. But there's two questions I have here. Right, first is that if the Discovery is there, why is the Matt Jeffries Enterprise there? Because it's been established in Star Trek Picard, for example, that now what seems to be canon is the John Eves redesign from the end of Discovery Season 1 into Discovery Season 2, which I absolutely love, by the way. But having that in Picard means that have we kind of erased the original series from kind of visual canon? Which I hope not, because I love the Matt Jeffries design. So that's one little just question in my head. And then the other one is, when the Discovery was destroyed at the end of Season 2, Spock speaks to Section 31 and Starfleet Command and says basically, listen, everyone should be barred from ever speaking of these events again. We should never acknowledge the spore drive. We should never acknowledge the Discovery. That's the end of it. Basically, it's all a big secret. How far-reaching is that? For example, is it far-reaching enough that, say, they've just quietly started to ignore the Discovery from history? And if so, what's the Discovery doing being brought up with all these bunch of hero ships in this moment as well? If they haven't been erasing Discovery from history and say everything up until the events of the spore drive are still as a matter of public record, okay, that's fine. But just in this moment, did that jump out at anybody else? Did that kind of like, hold on, should that really be there? I mean, Defiant, fine. Voyager, fine. Enterprise, sure, fine. Discovery, everybody at CBS is making great Star Trek. Anyone talking to each other? So it's just a little funny moment I had there, so I had to raise that. We also have a schematic of the Type 6 shuttle from the Next Generation, the kind of the Goddard type. We have the original Galileo type shuttle, and we have the Voyager Type 8 shuttle as well. Now, as the screen pulls out and we see the schematic really of the Federation as a whole, the Alpha and Beta quadrants. Now we also have the Klingon logo, and we have the OG Next Generation Romulan logo, which, you know, this is the pre-Nemesis update. I've always really, really liked that logo. We have the inclusion of the Beta quadrant in the Federation, which a lot of the time you think of the Federation as just an Alpha quadrant power, when really it does cross over between the two quadrants. Later on in the episode, what I really liked was that when Rok-Tahk brings food to Gwyn, the spoon has the little lower decks solo on it, the one that's on the boots of the lower decks, that's on the spoon, so I really liked that. And also, holographic Janeway materializes her coffee cup. That's getting an up from me. I'm sorry, that's getting an up from me. There's no need whatsoever for a hologram to drink coffee, and yet, perfect. That is everything for our list today, guys, and our special announcements as well. If there's anything that you think I missed in the episode, please drop it into the comments below. Please, let's get chatting. And also, please remember that if we're discussing this online, let's just be careful, because not everyone in the world is getting this at the same time. So let's just be mindful when it comes to spoilers. Try adding the hashtag Star Trek Prodigy to every, say, tweet or post that you're doing about this. Let's just be nice to each other. You can catch us over on Twitter at Trek Culture. You can catch myself at Sean Ferrick on all the various socials as well. Until I see you again, you look after yourselves, you live long and prosper, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.